Good evening to all of you. සාදරයෙන් පිළිගන්නවා ගුස්ටාව් මාලර් සොසයිටි එක ඒ වගේම රාජකීය විද්‍යාලයේ බටහිර සංගීත සංගමය එක්ව සංවිධානය කරනු ලබන Western Music Seminar එකට we welcome all of you to the Western Music Seminar organized by the Gustav Mahler Society of Colombo and the Western Music Society of Royal College Colombo. අද දිනේ මේ විශේෂ සෙමිනාර් එක අපි කරන්න හිතුවේ මේ දිනවල ලෝකයේ තරම් දින පවතින තත්ත්වයත් එක්ක අපහසුතාවයට සහ අධ්‍යාපන කටයුතු වලට මොන හරි බාධාවක් මගහැරීමක් සිදු වුණා නම් ඒකට මොකක් හරි උදව්වක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා තමයි අපි ගුස්ටාව් මාලර් සොසයිටි එකෙන් මේ වැඩසටහන සංවිධානය කරන්න හිතුවේ. අද වැඩසටහන මම හිතන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ වෙස්ටර්න් මියුසික් විෂය කරන සිසුන්ට යම් කිසි පාඩම් කොටස් කීපයකට උපකාරී වෙයි කියලා මම හිතනවා. මේ සෙමිනාර් එක සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් සහ ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාව මාරුවට පාවිච්චි කරගෙන කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. So we thought of doing this seminar because due to the prevailing pandemic situation worldwide and especially in the country, to help out any students sitting the ordinary level exam in January, for students who are taking Western music, if they all haven't been able to catch up with any subject material. So this particular seminar is on the harmonic components of your syllabus, and so we hope this will be of use. I'll be using Sinhala and English sparingly throughout the seminar. So පටන් ගන්න මත්තෙන් අපේ ගුස්ටාව් මාලර් සොසයිටි එක ගැන හැඳින්වීමක් කරනවා නම් ගුස්ටාව් මාලර් සොසයිටි එක දැනට ලංකාවේ පවතින විශාලතම ඔර්කෙස්ට්‍රා එක නැත්නම් වාද්‍ය වෘන්දය ප්‍රමුඛතම බටහිර සංගීතය සම්බන්ධ පවතින ආයතනයේ අපේ විවිධ performance ප්‍රසංග සහ අධ්‍යාපනික වැඩසටහන් අවුරුදු පුරාම ක්‍රියාත්මකයි. සියලු දෙනාම ඉදිරියටත් අපේ වැඩ කටයුතු පිළිබඳව දැනගන්න පුළුවන් අපේ වෙබ්සයිට් සහ Facebook සහ මේ YouTube channel එක හරහා. The Gustav Mahler Society of Colombo is the largest and foremost orchestra and the organization for Western classical music in Sri Lanka. So we do performances, concerts, educational program, outreach throughout each season. So if you stay tuned on Facebook and our website and this YouTube channel, you'll be able to find out more on the future activities. අද අපි කරන්න යන විෂය කරුණු පටන් ගන්නකොට මම මුලින්ම කියන්න ඕනේ අපි මේක O-level විභාගය අරමුණු කරගෙන මේ මූලික කරගෙන කරාට සමහර කරුණු මම මේ සබ්ජෙක්ට් එක වටා තියෙන දේවල් කියන්නේ බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එක කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒ කරුණුත් අපිට මේ විෂය ඉගෙන ගන්න උවමනා වෙයි කියලා හිතනවා. ඉතින් ඒවත් එක්ක අපි මේක ඉදිරියට කරගෙන යමු. I'll be speaking about different background material, not just the subject points, but other things as well. So I think it will be useful for all of us to get to know this information also. So first of all, talking about harmony, we can't go into harmony without talking about intervals. And අපේ harmony පිළිබඳව කතා කරනකොට intervals ගැන කතා කරන්නේ නැතුව harmony වලට යන්න අමාරුයි. ඒකයි intervals උත් කරන්න හිතුවේ. එතකොට අපේ western music වල harmony කියන එක පදනම් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ harmonic series එක. කියන්නේ overtone series. මම මේක ගැන ගැඹුරට කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මොකද මේක මියුසික් වල විද්‍යාත්මක කොටසට අයත් දෙයක්. නමුත් harmonic series එක කියලා දෙයක් තියෙනවා. මේකෙදී අපි මොන හරි ශබ්දයක් නිශ්චිත සංඛ්‍යාතයක ශබ්දයක් නිපදවුවොත් එහෙම ඒකත් එක්ක කම්පණය වෙන විවිධ සංඛ්‍යාතයන් තියෙනවා. ඒවට විවිධ පිචර්ස් තියෙනවා. මෙන්න මේ harmonic series එකත් එක්ක තමයි මෙතන උනන්දු කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් ඒ කට්ටියට වැඩිදුර තීරීමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. මම ඒක ගැන ගැඹුරට යන්න අදහසක් නැහැ. So talking about Western harmony, the entire harmonic system is based on the harmonic series. That belongs to the scientific aspect of music. So I do not hope to go deeply into that area. But the harmonic series is when you make a sound, any sound. When you make a sound on a certain frequency, several other frequencies above that tone vibrate along with it. So those pitches are different. So that's how we get the notes in our scale. So that's the base of our harmony. So I don't want to talk too much about it. But if any of y'all are interested, do research on the harmonic series. I think that will be very helpful for y'all to understand. අපි intervals වලට යමු. Intervals ගත්තොත් එහෙම මොකක්ද අපි interval එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. අපි දන්නවා සාමාන්‍ය ජීවිතයේදී අපි මොන හරි දෙයක් අතර දුර මනිනවා නැත්නම් දිග මනිනවා. ඒ මනින්නේ මොනවා පාවිච්චි කළාද? අපි පාවිච්චි කරනවා මීටර් හෝ සෙන්ටිමීටර් කිලෝමීටර් ඒ වගේ විවිධ එකක පාවිච්චි කරනවා. අපි මියුසික් වල අපි ගනුදෙනු කරන්නේ හඬවල් එක්ක, සවුන්ඩ්ස් එක්ක. එතකොට අපි මියුසික් වලදී ඉන්ටර්වල් එකක් කියන්නේ notes දෙකක් අතර තියෙන දුර. හඬේ. දිගින් නෙමෙයි හඬේ. tonal distance between two notes. ඒකක් තමයි ඉන්ටර්වල් එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. So in our day-to-day life, we measure distance or length using different units like centimeters, meters, or kilometers. Likewise, in music, if we have to gauge the difference of two notes, two pitches, we use the intervals. And intervals වල දැන් අපි දුරමන ඉන්න මීටර් හෝ සෙන්ටිමීටර් පාවිච්චි කරනවා වගේ ඒක තමයි ඒකක. intervals වලදී අපි පාවිච්චි කරන ඒකක තමයි tones හෝ semitones. දන්න semitone එකක් කියන්නේ notes දෙකක් අතර තියෙන්න පුළුවන් අවමුදුර half a step. tone එකක් කියන්නේ semitone දෙකයි. එතකොට අපි so we know in our day-to-day life when we measure distance, we use meters or centimeters as our unit of measuring. In music, to measure distance in sound, we use tones or centimeters, tones or semitones as our units. So as we all know, a semitone is the shortest distance between two notes, and that's half a step. Two semitones make up one tone. So that's one whole step. So let's look at some material. I hope you all can see my computer screen. So when we write intervals, there are two ways that we can write intervals. One is you can write it like a harmonic interval, and the other one is you can write it like a melodic interval. When you take a harmonic interval, the two notes are played together. Hope you all can see this. Wait. Let me figure this out. Sorry. Should be okay now. Right. So in intervals, there are two ways that you can write intervals. One is like a harmonic interval, and the other one is you can write it like a melodic interval. Harmonic interval, you write the two notes together, and on a melodic interval, you write the two notes one after the other. So here the both notes are played together, and here both the two notes are played one after the other. Intervals වල අපිට ලියන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රම දෙකක් තියෙනවා. එකක් harmonic interval එකක් විදියට, අනිත් එක melodic interval එකක් විදියට. harmonic interval එකේදී notes දෙකම අපි ලියන්නේ එකට. එතකොට melodic interval එකේදී අපි notes දෙක ලියන්නේ වෙන වෙනම. harmonic interval එකේදී notes දෙක එකම වෙලාවෙ වාදනය වෙන්නේ. melodic interval එකේදී notes දෙක එකකට පස්සේ අනිත් එක විදියට තමයි වාදනය වෙන්නේ. දැන් අපි මොකක් හරි interval එකක් හඳුනා ගන්න. අපි දැන් මොකක් හරි interval එකක් අපිට අනික් ඒ වගේ වෙන් කරලා අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. වෙන් කරලා අඳුර ගන්නකොට අපිට තොරතුරු දෙකක් අවශ්‍යයි මේක හරියටම වෙන් කරලා අඳුර ගන්න. ඒ තොරතුරු දෙක තමයි අපි උදාහරණයක් හැටියට ගමු මෙතන මේ තියෙන interval එක. අපිට තියෙනවා C එකකුයි G එකකුයි. අපිට මේ notes දෙක අතර තියෙන interval එක හරියටම අනිත් ඒ වගේ වෙන් කරලා අඳුර ගන්න උවමනා නම් අපිට තොරතුරු දෙකක් ඕනේ. අපි මේ තොරතුරු දෙක හඳුන්වා ගන්නවා qualitative value සහ quantitative value කියලා. quantitative value කියන්නේ අපේ interval එකේ ප්‍රමාණාත්මක අගය, ඉලක්කමක් වගේ. numerical value. qualitative value කියලා කියන්නේ ගුණාත්මක අගය. මොන වගේද කියන එක. එතකොට අපි quantitative value එක ගත්තොත් එහෙම මේක අපිට එන්නේ second, third, fourth මේ ආකාරයට. qualitative value එක එන්නේ perfect, major, minor මේ ආකාරයට. So if we look at an interval, let's talk about this. So we have a C and a G, and if we are to distinguish this interval properly, we need two pieces of information. One of them is the quantitative interval, quantitative value, and the other one is the qualitative value. Quantitative value is the numerical value of your interval. Qualitative value is the quality of sound, quality of that interval. So when we if we are asked to find an interval, it's important that you first find the quantitative value. ඔයගලන්ට මොන හරි ඉන්ටර්වල් එකක් හොයන්න කියලා කිව්වොත් එම කරන්න ඕනේ පළවෙනි ස්ටෙප් එක තමයි, පළවෙනි පියවර තමයි quantitative value එක හොයන එක. ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රමාණාත්මක අගය. මේක අපි කොහොමද හොයන්නේ? අපි බලමු. අපිට දැන් මෙතන දීලා දෙනවා notes දෙකක් C සහ G. අපි මුලින්ම බලමු quantitative value එක හොයන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා. quantitative value එක හොයන්නේ මේ දීලා තියෙන notes දෙක ඇතුළුව lines සහ spaces ගණන් කරලා අපිට හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් මේ interval එකේ quantitative value එක. අපි ගණන් කරලා බලමු. මේ C තියෙන line එක 1යි ඊළඟ D තියෙන space එක 2යි E තියෙන line එක 3යි F තියෙන space එක 4යි G තියෙන line එක 5යි. එතකොට මේක අපි fifth එකක් කියලා හඳුන්වන්න පුළුවන්. If we want to find the quantitative interval of two notes, what you should do is you can find that by counting the number of lines and spaces including the given two notes. So if we do that, we have this line where middle C is 1, then you have the space where D is, that's 2, then we have the line of E, that's 3, space of F, line of G, so that's 5. So we can identify that as a fifth. And if you are a beginner to intervals, this is the most important step. You should immediately write this down somewhere after you find the quantitative interval. Then you might be wondering why we can't just identify an interval with the number. It's very easy. So why can't we just identify an interval with its number? ඔගොල්ලෝ හිතනවා ඇති ඇයි දැන් අපිට බැරි මේ ඉලක්කමේ අගයෙන් විතරක් ඒ කියන්නේ quantitative interval එකෙන් විතරක් අපිට interval එකක් හඳුන්වන්න බැරි ඇයි කියලා. මොකද මේක හරි lazy. lines and spaces ටික ගණන් කරන්න විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. අපි යමු තව දැනකට. මෙතනදී බලන්න. මෙතන ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තියෙනවා තව intervals කීපයක්. හරි. මෙතනදී අපි බලමු මේ එතන quantitative value එක කොච්චරද කියලා. 1යි 2යි 3යි. So if we find the quantitative interval of these two particular notes, it's a third. 1, 2 and 3, it's a third. Write that down. It's a third. Then we go to the next two notes. What's this now? It's again a third. මේක ගත්තත් මේකත් third එකක්. ඊට පස්සේ මේ notes දෙකට යමු. මේ notes දෙක ගත්තත් මේක 1යි 2යි 3යි මේක third එකක්. හරි. Then may intervals තුනක්. These three intervals are three different intervals. Let's hear that. So those are three different intervals. But if we just identify with the quantitative value, we are just going to end up with the same thing, but it's not the same thing. අපි quantitative value එකෙන් විතරක් මේක හඳුනා ගන්න ගියොත් එහෙම අපිට එකම අගය තමයි එන්නේ. අපිට මේ තුන වෙනස් වුණාට එකම අගයක් තමයි එන්නේ. මෙතනදී තමයි අපිට ඕන වෙන්නේ අපේ qualitative interval කියන එක. interval එකේ quality එක. දැන් මේ තුනේ lines සහ spaces ගන්න සමාන වුණාට මේ තුන වෙනස් වෙන එක දෙයක් තියෙනවා. ඒ දේ තමයි මේ notes අතර තියෙන semitones ප්‍රමාණය වෙනස්. Even though the number of lines and spaces between these notes is the same, there's something that sets these three apart, and that's the number of semitones you have between these notes. So based on that, based on the number of semitones you get, between these notes, you can tell the qualitative interval of the two notes that you're looking for. මේ notes දෙක අතර තියෙන semitones ප්‍රමාණය ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න පුළුවන් මේ interval එකේ තියෙන qualitative interval එක. ඒ කියන්නේ ගුණාත්මක අගය. දැන් මේක semitones ගාන ගත්තොත් එහෙම දැන් අපි qualitative interval එක semitones ගානක් කියලා කියවට මේක ඒ වගේ යාන්ත්‍රික දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. මොකද මේක හඬේ තියෙන දෙයක්. ඒක නිසා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේක හොයන්න වෙන්නේ semitones ගණන් කරලා තමයි. නමුත් ඒක ඉලක්කමක් විතරයි යාන්ත්‍රික දෙයක් විදිහට හිතන්න එපා. දැන් අපි මෙතන තියෙන semitones ගාන බැලුවොත් එහෙම බලමු keyboard එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. Meanwhile, so even though the qualitative interval is defined on the number of semitones between these notes, don't think of it as a mechanical thing. It's something to do with the sound. Let's see. So this is C to E. So we are going to count the number of semitones. So C to C sharp is 1 semitone, C sharp to D is 2 semitones, D to D sharp is 3 semitones, and D sharp to E is 4 semitones. So here we have 4 semitones. Then the next one, C to E sharp. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones. So here we have C to E flat, 1, 2, 3 semitones. So according to the number of semitones, we can assign a qualitative name to each of these things. So you all can see here. I'm sure you all have seen something similar to this before when you all have learned this in school. So we got a quantitative interval here, that's a third. So we go to the third, and then the number of semitones we found here. This one was 4 semitones. So on a third, if you have 4 semitones, it's a major. It's a major third. So we can identify this as a major third. මම හිතන්නේ කාල වේලාව හන්ද අපි ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාවෙන් මේක කරගෙන යමු. කාට හරි නොතේරෙන දෙයක් තියෙනවා නම් මම හිතන්නේ ස්ට්‍රීම් එකේ කමෙන්ට් එකක් විදිහට දාන්න මොන හරි නොතේරෙන දෙයක් තියෙනවා නම් එතකොට මම සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් ඒක තව සැරයක් කියන්නම්. නැත්නම් මම හිතන්නේ අපිට කාල වේලාවේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මතුවේයි. ඒ වගේම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නත් කමෙන්ට් සෙක්ෂන් එකේ දාන්න. එතකොට මේ ස්ට්‍රීම් එක වෙලාවේ පුළුවන් වුණොත් එහෙමයි. නැත්නම් ඊට පස්සේ අපි ඒවට උත්තර කමෙන්ට් සෙටේට දීගෙන යන්න. Okay. So here we found that out. We have a third, that's the quantitative interval, and we found out that these two have 4 semitones in between. A third that has 4 semitones, it's a major third. So if we go to the next one, it's still a third, and we found out that there are 5 semitones. So according to our chart, if our third has 5 semitones, it's an augmented third. So same story here. Our quantitative interval, that's a third, and we found out there are 3 semitones here. So if we have 3 semitones on a third, it's a minor third. Let's look at our first example. So we have C to G, that's a fifth, we already found that out. C to G, we have to now count the number of semitones. Because of the time, it's 7 semitones. You all can count that, count it if you all want. I'm not going to count it on the keyboard, but it's 7 semitones. And C to G is a fifth. So we go to our table. On a fifth, if you have 7 semitones, it's a perfect fifth. So that's basically how you find and identify an interval. And then there's something else that you are taught. It's inversions. You can invert an interval. Inverting means you change the position of the note. So let's first find this interval. So it's A to C. Enlarge this a bit. A to C. It's a third, and we have 3 semitones between these two notes, and a third that has 3 semitones. It's a minor third. Now we are going to invert this interval. So what we are going to do is change the position of this note. So it's better if you go towards the other note. So you can change it to the upper octave. You can invert this note or the other one. So you invert it down towards this note. So you change its octave. So you end up with a lower C. Whichever note that you invert, you end up with the same answer. Let's invert the first note. So that goes up. So now let's find out the interval. So C to A, that's a sixth, and there are 9 semitones. So that's a major sixth. So our inverted interval becomes a major sixth. So there's a pattern how inversions happen. If you invert a second becomes a seventh. If you invert a third becomes a sixth. If you invert a fourth, that becomes a fifth. So same thing other way around. If you invert a fifth, that becomes a fourth. If you invert a sixth, it becomes a third. If you invert a seventh, it becomes a second. And perfect stays perfect. Major becomes minor, minor becomes major, augmented becomes diminished, diminished becomes augmented. So let's test a couple of these things. Let's see. So here we have a second. It's a major second. A to B is a major second. So let's write that somewhere. Major second. So now let's invert this. I'm going to write it separately. Let's invert the first note and keep the second note the same. So we are going to find out this interval. B to A is a seventh. B, C, D, E, F, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a seventh. So according to the inversions changes, second becomes a seventh. So that's true. Write this as a seventh. So we have to count the number of semitones here. Let's do that on the keyboard. So B to A. Count from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you have 10 semitones on a seventh, it's a minor seventh. You can check it on the table. Let's see. If you have 10 semitones on a seventh, it's a minor seventh. So major becomes minor. So major second became a minor seventh. Major became minor. Second was converted to seventh. So inversions happen in this pattern. You all can keep this in mind. And then that's how inversions happen. Now we talked about how to find these intervals using the number of semitones and by counting the number of lines and spaces. There's another way that you all can do this. So before we go into that, let's do something else. What do we have here? We have a C major scale. Now let's do something. As we all know, these are scale degrees. First scale degree, second scale degree, third scale degree, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's find out the intervals between these two notes from the tonic. So from the first scale degree to the second scale degree, then from the first scale degree to the third scale degree, first to fourth. So let's do that. So see, C to D is a major second. For the time's sake, I'm just going to put in the intervals. You all can do it separately at home if you like. So now we are going to check C to E. C to E is a major third. Then C to F, that's a perfect fourth. Then C to G, I'm just going to copy paste. C to G is a perfect fifth. Then C to A, C to A is a major sixth. C to B, C to B is a major seventh. C to C is obviously a perfect eighth. That's an octave. Okay, so we have first scale degree, second scale degree, third scale degree, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. And if you see, we got everything either major or perfect. So fourths and fifths and eighths are perfect, and the others are major. Okay. So we know this can be common to any major scale, because any major scale you all have we have the same distance between each of these tones. We have a tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, and between the two tetrachords we have a tone. So these intervals are common on any major scale. Having that in mind, let's go to our chart again. So if we check here, major or perfect, let's call that the natural state of intervals. And then if you notice, if you have one semitone less than a major, it becomes a minor in all the places. So here major has 4 semitones. If you have one less, that means third, 3 semitones, it becomes a minor. If you have one semitone less than perfect, it becomes diminished. So for major or perfect, if you have more than the number of semitones for major or perfect, it becomes an augmented interval. So here major has 2 semitones. If you have 3 semitones, it becomes augmented. Major has 4 semitones. If it's 5, it's augmented. Perfect has 5 semitones. If it has 6, it becomes augmented. So likewise, it's the same. And another thing, if a minor interval is lowered by a semitone, that becomes a diminished interval. If a minor interval is lowered by a semitone, it becomes a diminished interval. If you know how this happens, with the knowledge of this, you can find intervals easier than the previous method. So how we do that is, let's just take two random notes, say G and E flat. So here, now think in terms of the G major scale. So let's just do the obvious one. Let's take G and E. So here, think about the G major scale. Then think, if the G major scale has both of these notes, do we have G and E on the G major scale? Yes. G, A, B, C, D, E. We have G and E, and E is the 6th degree of the G major scale. So previously we found out the 6th degree of the major scale. The interval from the tonic to the 6th is a major 6th. We found that out earlier. So you can easily call this a major 6th, because that comes from the scale. So let's say you have something that was not on the scale. For example, E flat. You don't have E flat on the G major scale. So think about what you have on the scale. You have E natural. So if this was an E natural, that would have become a major 6th. But this is E flat. That means one semitone less. So we talked about that earlier. If you have one semitone less from a major interval, that becomes a minor interval. So you can easily write this as a minor 6th. So if you are very good with scales and accidentals, this is another way to find out intervals. That is, if you are good with major scales, or stick to the previous method. If you don't remember accidentals, then this will get you in trouble. If you are good with that, you can go with this method. Okay. Now all this time we talked about intervals within an octave. That's intervals from 2nd to 8th. So we can have intervals which are more than an 8th. That means intervals that are more than an octave. So let's look at something like that. So what do we have here? We have a C and a E, but this is more than an octave. That's more than an 8th. So intervals that extend beyond an octave, we call them compound intervals. Octave එකකට වඩා වැඩි intervals වලට අපි කියනවා compound intervals කියලා. There are two ways that we can identify compound intervals. It's the same method, but you can write it in two different ways. One is, if you're given these two notes, assume you have the octave. Calculate this interval and add compound in front of it. I think that's the easiest method. So you are initially given this. Imagine you have the octave. So this is an easier interval to calculate. C2 is a major third. Add the term compound in front of it. That's I think the most easiest way to identify a compound interval. So same thing. You have this note G to D sharp. Assume you have the octave. G to D sharp is an augmented 5th. Write augmented and add the term compound in front of it. So That's one way of writing compound intervals. And the other method is let's look at the previous one. You can write this with the exact quantitative interval. That's by counting all the lines and spaces up to here. So this gives us up to C is an 8th, 9, 10. So this is a, you can write this as a 10th. Again, you have to imagine the octave and calculate this. So a 10th works like a second. So you can write this as a major 10th. Don't go to count the exact number of semitones that's here. Always imagine the shortest option. So if you imagine the octave, it's easier to calculate this. It's a major third. Third works like a 10th. So same qualities. So if this was an E flat, this is a minor third. So that's a minor 10th. So you can write it both ways. This is, you can write it either minor 10th or compound minor third. So if you write any of these two options, you can identify a compound interval. So here you can see this. I have just inserted the number of semitones for each of these also, but you don't need this. All you have to say is a second ninth works like second. Same minor major augmented. It's the same here. 10th works like the third. Minor major augmented. Same. So likewise, it's the same. Always imagine the octave and then calculate the interval. So here, these are the two ways that you can write. Compound major second is the same as a major ninth. Compound perfect fourth is a perfect 11th. Likewise. So I think that's about it on the intervals on your syllabus. Going further from here, so finally, I think again looking back here, if you are good with scales, if you know your accidentals, what does G major have, what does G flat major have, the number of sharps and flats, what are they? If you know that, I think this method may be easier for you all to calculate intervals. Okay. Let's move forward from there. Next we have triads. We have a question. Somebody is asking how 10th is equal to third. 10th is not literally equal to third, but it works like a third. Let's see here. Here we have a major third, so that's a third. Let's write a 10th also. So this is a 10th. So as you can see, this is C and E, C and E, same two notes. Even though they are one octave apart, they work in the same way. එකම විදිහට තමයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. notes දෙකේ නම් දෙක සමානයි, C සහ E. එතනත් C සහ E. හැබැයි වෙනස තියෙන octave එකක් එහා. එතකොට මේකේ tone qualities හැසිරෙන විදිහටම තමයි මෙතනදී tone qualities හැසිරෙන්නේ. The same way the tone quality behaves in a third, it's the same on a compound third or a major or a tenth. Same way how the qualities behave on a third, qualities on a tenth or a compound third, that's the same thing. They also behave the same way. That's the similarity between a third and a tenth. So likewise, a ninth behaves like a second. Uh, 11th behaves like a fourth. Likewise, they are connected the way that they behave. So easiest way is you assume you have the octave, find this like a third, and then get your compound interval. This is a major third, C2 is a major third. C2 upper E is a compound major third. Or a major tenth. Both are correct. මේ තියෙන්නේ major third එකක්, මේ තියෙන්නේ compound major third එකක්. එහෙම නැත්නම් major tenth එකක්. මේ උත්තර දෙකම සමානයි. මම හිතනවා මේක තේරෙන්න ඇති කියලා. කවුරු හරි අහනවා compound semitone ලයිස්තුව පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒක වැදගත් නැහැ. ඒක පාඩම් කරන්න එපා. ඒක reference එක සඳහා විතරයි මම දැම්මේ. Somebody wanted to see the table of compound intervals. I can show it, but don't study it. You don't need it. You only need to know how the intervals second to eighth work. So if you know ninth works like second, 10th works like third, that's all you need to know. You don't need all these number of semitones or anything. I have just put them for reference. If you want a screenshot, you can take it, but I'm telling you, don't study it. You don't need this. Okay. Next, we go triads. Does anybody know an easy way to remember key signatures? Write all the scales every day for 1 week, then you will remember everything. That's my advice. ඔක්කොම scales ටික දිනපතා සතියක් ලියන්න. ඒ සතිය ලියනකොට accidentals ඔක්කොම ටික මතක හිටිනවා. Let's go to triads. So a triad has 3 notes. Triad එකක් කියන්නේ chord එකක්, notes 3ක් තියෙනවා. Triad is a chord with 3 notes that are built in thirds. Let's again take C. So you can build a triad on C by stacking thirds above this note. So what's the third above C? C, D, E, that's E. What's the third above E? E, F, G. G. We end up with a triad. So triad is a 3-note chord that are stacked in thirds. Okay. So triads, they differ according to their tone quality or sonority, if that makes sense. Triads එකින් එකින් වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඒවා ඒ හඬේ ගුණය සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඒවා අපිට ඇහෙන විදිහ එක triads එකින් එකින් වෙනස් වෙනවා. So there are different types of triads. So one type of triads is major triads. So on major triads, you have a major third and a perfect fifth. 1 to 3 is a major third, 1 to 5 is a perfect fifth. You can also say 3 to 5 is a minor third. But it's better if you follow a common method, always calculate from the lowest note. So first to third on a major triad, you have a major third. C to E is a major third, and C to G is a perfect fifth. Or if you want the interval between the third and the fifth, that's a minor third. So that sounds like this. So a major triad sounds like that. Then what happens? If you have a minor third and a perfect fifth, 1 to 3 is a minor third, 1 to 5 is a perfect fifth, or 3 to 5 is a major third. Different sound. So we identify that as a minor triad. Then we have another type of triads. That's a diminished triad. So here you have a minor third. 1 to 3 is a minor third. And then 1 to 5 we have a diminished fifth. You all can hear that. That's the diminished sound. Next, we have augmented triads. 1 to 3 is a major third. That's the same like a major triad. But 1 to 5 is an augmented fifth. C to G sharp is an augmented fifth. Again, different sound. So we call that an augmented triad. So let's hear them one after the other. Minor, diminished, augmented. So I would like to suggest you all to do an exercise. Try writing these types of triads on other notes. Now we built all these triads on C. So you can build major triads, minor triads, diminished triads, augmented triads on F sharp or B flat. Any note. Do this for the other notes and then you will be fine with it. You just have to remember these intervals. Major triad has a major third and a perfect fifth. Minor triad has a minor third and a perfect fifth. Diminished triad has a minor third and a diminished fifth. Augmented triad has a major third and augmented fifth. So those are the four types of triads. And then, like we did for the intervals, we can also invert triads. Intervals වගේම triads වලත් අපිට inversions ලියන්න පුළුවන්. So common for all triads, the lowest note that we build the triad on, we call that the root. Triad එක අපි හදන note එක මොන note එකකටද හදන්නේ කියන එක අපි මේ triad එක හදලා දෙන්නේ C උඩ. තව එකක් හදලා බලමු. E එක උඩ හදමු. මේ triad එක අපි හදලා තියෙන්නේ E උඩ. එතකොට මේකේ root එක තමයි E. We build this triad on E, so the root is E. Okay. So we call the note that you build the triad on as the root. So if the lowest note of the triad is also the root, you call it root position. So now we are going to invert this. Get G. So this is in root position. Now we are going to invert it. We are going to send this up. Now we have E. That's the third as our lowest pitch. Lowest sounding pitch is the third of the triad. Now we call this the first inversion. We are going to invert this again. Now here on this inversion we are going to send this also to the top. So we end up with G at the bottom. Now G is our lowest sounding pitch. So when you have the fifth as your lowest sounding pitch, you call this the second inversion. So for triads, these are the way that you all can write triads. So you all have first inversion and second inversion. In chords, if you have 4 note chords, 4 different notes, not one note doubled, if you have 4 different notes, you can write third inversion also. That's in 4-part harmony. So here I think you all have this clear. If your lowest sounding pitch is also the root, that's root position. If your lowest sounding pitch is the third, it's first inversion. If your lowest sounding pitch is the fifth, that's the second inversion. Do we have augmented and diminished triads for our exams? I think you all have. Not anything. I don't think you all have to harmonize anything, but I think you can be asked to identify. මේ triads වලින් harmonize කරන්න ඉන්නේ නැහැ. Diminished triads වලින් augmented triads වලින් හැබැයි ඒක මේ triads අඳුර ගන්න එන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. කොහොමත් මේව දැනගෙන ඉන්න හොඳයි. Anyway, it's better for you all to know. As you all know, music is not something that you learn to write on a paper. This is a practical subject and we have to enjoy music. Music කියන්නේ practical subject එකක් අපි මේක රස විඳින්න ඕනේ. Music කියන්නේ අපි අත්හදා බලන දෙයක්. එතකොට මේ විභාගෙට එන ටික විතරක් කියලා මේ කොලේ ලියන්න විතරක් ඉගෙන ගත්තට වැඩක් නැහැ. පාවිච්චි කරන්න බැරි නම්. So you can learn anything, just don't learn it because you have to write it on the paper. These may come useful in future, who knows. So I think we got inversions out of the way. So let's do this also. Now we have a C major scale here. So again, this is going to be the same for any major scale. Let's build triads on all of these notes. You put a third and a fifth. That's it. What's the third above C? That's an E, C, D, E. What's the third above E? C, E, F, G. It's G. So then we build a triad on D. What's the third above D? D, E, F. What's the third above that? F, G, A. Likewise, I'm going to do the other ones. මොනවා හරි නොතේරෙන දෙයක් තියෙනවා නම් මම සිංහලෙන් කියන්න ඕනේ නම් කමෙන්ට් වල දාන්න. මියුසික් වලදී මේක වෙස්ටර්න් මියුසික් වුණාට භාෂාව ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්න බෑ. So now let's erase this. This is the same as the first one. So for the 7 degrees of the scale, we got 7 triads. Now let's find out what types of triads these are. Okay, let's see. Let's check this one. C to E, 1 to 3, we have a major third, and 1 to 5, C to G, that's a perfect fifth. So we have a major triad. What's the next one? D, F, A. D to F, we have a minor third. D to A is a perfect fifth. Minor third and a perfect fifth, that's a minor triad. Next, we have E, G, and B. So E to G is a minor third. E to B is a perfect fifth. Minor third and a perfect fifth. Again, we have a minor triad. Next, we have F, A, C. F to A is a major third. F to C is a perfect fifth. Major third and a perfect fifth is major triad. Next, we have G, B, D. G to B is a major third. G to D is a perfect fifth. Again, major. Next, we have A, C, E. A to C is a minor third. A to E is a perfect fifth. Minor third and a perfect fifth is a minor triad. Next, we have B, B, F. B to D is a minor third. B to F, that's a diminished fifth. Now that differs. So we talked about this here. Minor third and a diminished fifth is a diminished triad. So we have a diminished triad here. So now we have, this will be common to any major scale because like we talked about for intervals, the distances are the same. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, tone. Again, the other semitone is when you go to the tonic. So on a major scale, the first triad is major, second triad is minor, third triad is minor, fourth triad is major, fifth is major, sixth is minor, seventh is diminished. So I think you all know the technical names for the scale degrees. That's tonic, supertonic, median, subdominant, dominant, submediant, leading tone. So when you build the triad on the tonic, you call it the tonic triad. When you build the triad on the supertonic, that's the second scale degree, you call it the supertonic triad. Likewise, that goes on. So here our key of the key C major, no sharps or flats. Key signature के sharps or flats नहीं है, एक यानी आपके key एक C major. C major වල first degree ඒ කියන්නේ tonic එක C C එක උඩ හදපු triad එක tonic triad එක C කියන්නේ C major වල tonic triad එක D F A කියන්නේ C major වල second degree ඒ කියන්නේ supertonic C major වල supertonic triad එක තමයි D F A. So our key is C major. C is our tonic of C major scale. The triad that we build on the tonic is the tonic triad. The triad that we build on the supertonic is the supertonic triad. So there's a way that we identify these triads. You can use Roman numerals. Roma ඉලක්කම් පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ triad එක හඳුන්වන්න. So the Roman numerals comes that's determined by which scale degree. So here we are talking about C major, no sharps or flats in the key signature. So C major, C is the first degree, so the triad that you build on the first degree, that's 1. So because this is major, somebody is asking a question, sir, how do you know whether it's major or minor? We talked about different types of triads here. Major triad has a major third and a perfect fifth. Minor triad has a minor third and a perfect fifth. Diminished triads have a minor third and a diminished fifth. Augmented triads have a major third and an augmented fifth. So if you're given any triad, let's write any old triad. So if you want to know what type of triad this is, check the intervals. 1 to 3, what do you have? D to F is a minor third. Then 1 to 5, D to A is a perfect fifth. So we talked about this earlier. When you have a minor third and a perfect fifth, it's a minor triad. So likewise, you can identify what types of triads each of these are. So coming back here, so C is your first scale degree and the triad that you build it on, you write Roman numeral 1 and that's capital I. Then you come to the next one, that's the second scale degree. So you write Roman numeral 2, that's 2 I's, but it's a minor triad, so you write simple. For minor, you always write simple Romans. Major, you write capital Roman numerals. සිංහලෙනුත් කියන්න කියලා කියනවා triads අපිට triads අපි නම් කරන්නේ නාමකරණයේදී අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ රෝම ඉලක්කම්. රෝම ඉලක්කම් පාවිච්චි කරනකොට major triads වලට capital රෝම ඉලක්කම් තමයි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. minor triads වලට simple රෝම ඉලක්කම් තමයි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. මෙතන අපේ key එක අපි හොයාගන්නේ key signature එකෙන්. key signature එක දාන්නේ clef එකට පස්සේ මෙතන key signature එකේ sharps or flats නැහැ. අපි දන්නවා C major එකේ sharps or flats නැහැ. ඒ වගේම මේක A minor වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මෙතන G sharp තිබුණා නම් අපිට G sharp එකක් වෙන්න නැහැ නේ. එතකොට ඒ කියන්නේ මේක A minor නෙවෙයි C major. C major key එකේ C කියන්නේ පළවෙනි scale degree එක. C scale එකේ C තමයි scale එකේ ඉස්සෙල්ලාම එන්නේ. එතකොට ඒ කියන්නේ එක පළවෙනි scale degree එක. ඒක උඩ හදන triad එක ඒක අපි නම් කරනවා රෝම ඉලක්කම් එකෙන්. ඒක major නිසා capital රෝම ඉලක්කම් එකෙන් නම් කරනවා. C major scale එකේ D කියන්නේ දෙවෙනි scale degree එක. එතකොට D උඩ හදන triad එක අපි දෙක කියලා නම් කරනවා රෝම ඉලක්කම් දෙක. අපි හොයාගත්ත මේ triad එක minor triad එකක් කියලා. එතකොට අපි ඒක ලියන්නේ simple රෝම ඉලක්කම් වලින්. මම හිතනවා තේරෙන්න ඇති කියලා. So we move on here. E is third scale degree. So you write Roman numeral 3. So you write Roman numeral 3, and that's simple Roman numeral 3 because it's a minor triad. So we move on to the next one. F is fourth scale degree of C major. So that's a major triad. So we write capital Roman numeral 4. And then we move on to the next triad, GBD. G is the fifth scale degree, C, D, E, F, G. So it's a major triad. So we write capital Roman numeral 5. Next we move on to the ACE. A is sixth scale degree. Highwini scale degree එක C major වල. එතකොට රෝම ඉලක්කම් 6. Simple රෝම ඉලක්කම් 6. මොකද ඒක minor නිසා. So it's sixth scale degree is A. The triad built on A. It's Roman numeral 6, but it's simple Roman numeral 6 because it's a minor triad. So diminished triads. This is 7, but it's diminished. So diminished triads, you write simple and small circle on top. I will enlarge this. If it's a diminished triad, you write simple Roman numerals and a circle on top, like you write for angles. So small circle on top with simple Roman numerals. So we have 7 diminished triad. For augmented, so let's name this also, assuming this is C major. This is first degree of C major scale. It's a major triad 1. This is a minor triad. It's built on the first scale degree, that is C, but it's minor triad. So simple Roman numeral 1. So here we have a diminished triad. For diminished, we know use this and the circle on top. So simple Roman numeral 1 with the small circle on top. So for augmented triads, it's capital Roman numerals with the plus sign on top. Yes, somebody asked how do you indicate augmented triads. So it's capital Roman numeral with the plus sign on top. So that's how you indicate augmented triads. So now that we have Roman numeral triads out of the way, we have to there's a way that we indicate the inversions also. So C major scale, C, E, G. C is the first scale degree. It's the tonic triad. So it's 1. For root position, you can just have 1, or you can have 1A. It's okay that if you don't write 1A, if you have 1, that's enough. 1 කියලා තිබුණත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ, root position 1A කියලා ලියුවොත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. දෙකම එකයි. දේශ විදිය A කියලා ලියන්න නැතුව ඉන්න එක. So you can write both. Easiest is to not write the A. So that if you have a triad without a letter, it's in root position. So when we come here, it's still C major, It's an inversion, but it's still C major. So first inversion we indicate as B. Second inversion still C E G triad, but it's inverted. So second inversion we write it as 1C. So if you have an inverted triad, how do you find what's the root of this triad? Inverted triad එකක් දුන්නොත් එහෙම මේකේ root එක හොයාගන්නේ කොහොමද? නිකන් triad එකක් බලමු. හරි. notes තුනක් තියෙනවා triad එකක්. We have 3 notes and we have a triad here, but it's inverted. Now we want to find what the root is, root of this triad. What do we do? Check each of these notes and check if you can stack thirds on these notes. Think about A. What happens if you stack thirds on this? Third above A is C. Okay, we have C, but third above C is E. Do we have E? No. So that's not your root. A is not your root. Check F sharp. What's third above F sharp? A. Okay, we have A. What's third above A? C. So we have A and C. So our root is F sharp. So if we write this particular inverted triad in root position, F sharp, A, C sharp. You want to identify whether it's a major or minor triad. What's this first interval? F sharp to A is a minor third, F sharp to C sharp is a perfect fifth, so it's a minor triad. That's how you determine the root of an inverted triad. You don't know what the root is. Think about all 3 notes. Try stacking thirds above each of these notes. The note that you can stack thirds above the notes, that's your root. Okay, so that's it on triads. So you can harmonize using triads. So we call this 3-part harmony, but then we have something called 4-part harmony also, where we use 4 different voices to harmonize. So next we go to that. When we talk about 4-part harmony, we are writing for 4 different lines. In this case, 4 different voices. Think about a choir. So what are the voices that you all have in a choir? Generally, you have soprano, alto, tenor, bass. So that's 4 lines, 4 different voices. So in 4-part harmony, we write for 4 different voices. Okay, so when we harmonize in 4 parts, it's important that you know the voice ranges. Soprano we usually write from D to A, but occasionally it's that extends to a middle C and an A. All of these things, voices are the ranges that people sing. So you can't exactly define from this note to this note because everybody's voice is different from one another. 4-part harmony වල අපි lines 4කට කියන ස්තර 4කට harmonize කරන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ choir එකක් ගැන හිතුවොත් එimhe choir එකේ ඉන්නවා soprano, alto, tenor, bass කියන කටහඬ වර්ග 4. එතකොට මේ වර්ග 4ට ලියනවා කියලා හිතාගෙන 4-part harmony වල අපි ලියන්නේ. අපි දන්නවා කටහඬ ගත්තම මේ කෙනාගෙන් කෙනාට වෙනස්. මොකද එක එක්කෙනාගේ මේ කටහඬ පරාස වෙනස්. එතකොට අපිට මේ voice ranges වල හරියටම මේ note එකේ ඉඳලා මේ note එකට කියලා කියන්න බෑ. මොකද එක එක්කෙනාගේ වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් මේ තියෙන්නේ සරල guideline එකක් මේකට අනුගත වෙලා ලියුවනම් වරදින්නේ නැහැ. So as I said earlier, You can't define exactly sopranos can sing from this note to this note and that's it. You can't say that because everybody's voice is different. So this is a guideline. You can follow this to avoid disaster, because these two are usually female voices, tenor and bass is male voices. You don't write up above the up in the treble clef ledger lines for tenors, because you know most of males can't sing that high. So stick to this guideline when you harmonize in 4-part, when you write for 4 voices. So that's in singable range. I hope that's clear. So 4-part harmony, there are 2 ways that we can write. One is short score and the other one is on short score and the other one is on open score. සිංහලෙන් කියන්න කියලා කියන මම හිතනවා තේරුණායි කියලා. මේ 4-part harmony වලට ලියනකොට අපේ lines අතර soprano, alto සහ tenor bass voices වලට ලියනවා කියලා හිතාගෙන මේ අපි දීලා තියෙන මේ මාර්ගෝපදේශන range එකේ ඉඳගෙන ලියන්න. එතකොට වර්ධින්නේ නැහැ. මොකද අපි දන්නවා tenor සහ bass කියන්නේ පිරිමි කටහඬවල්, soprano සහ alto කියන්නේ ගැහණු කටහඬවල් සාමාන්‍යයෙන්. එතකොට කය එකක මේ 4-part harmonize කරලා මේ මොන හරි මේ සංගීත ඛණ්ඩයක් දුන්නොත් එහෙම tenor සහ bass වලට ඒගොල්ලොන්ගේ සාමාන්‍ය කියන්න පුළුවන් කටහඬ පරාසෙ පහසුවෙන් කියන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් වෙන්න ඕනේ ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. soprano සහ alto ගායිකාවන්ට ඒ කට්ටියගේ කටහඬ පරාසෙ සාමාන්‍ය කියන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් වෙන්න ඕනේ ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. මොකද soprano වලට අපි ගොඩක් low ලියන්න බෑ. මොකද ඒ කට්ටියට ඒක කියන්න බෑ. tenors ලට ගොඩක් high ලියන්න බෑ. ඒ කට්ටියට ඒක කියන්න බෑ. bass ලට ගොඩක් high ලියන්න බෑ. ඒ කට්ටියට ඒක කියන්න බෑ. ඒක නිසා මේ දීලා තියෙන මාර්ගෝපදේශයන් වලට අනුගතව parts ලියන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි. එතකොට මේක perform කරනකොට වර්ධින්නේ නැහැ. When we write in 4-part harmony, there are 2 ways that we can notate the 4 voices. One is on short score. That's on 2 steps, treble and bass clef. So soprano, alto, tenor and bass. Soprano you write the stems up, alto you write the stems down, tenor again stems up, bass stems down. If you have semi-briefs, no stems, you just write them. The topmost line is soprano, the next one is alto, next one is tenor, next one is bass. The other way that you write for 4 voices is on open score. What's the difference between these two? Let's see. So here we have short score and open score. On short score you write soprano and alto on the same step, treble and bass on the same step. In open score, these have their every voice has a step on their own. Soprano will take a step එකයි, alto will take a step එකයි, tenor will take a step එකයි, bass will take a step එකයි. Open score එකේදී, short score එකේදී soprano සහ alto එක step එකක් share කරනවා, tenor සහ bass තව step එකක් share කරනවා. Open score එකේදී හැමෝටම වෙනම step එකක් තියෙනවා. මම මේ ලියලා තියෙන එකම දේ තමයි මෙතන තියෙන දේම තමයි මෙතනත් ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. නමුත් එක voice එකට එක ගානේ step එකක් තියෙනවා. One thing that you have to be careful converting from short score to open score. Tenor line you write it 1 octave higher. So tenors actually sing this note, that's the F here, but you write it in treble clef 1 octave higher, but they actually sing it 1 octave low. So that's one thing that you have to be careful when converting short score to open score. Soprano, alto and bass are the same, you write the same notes, but tenor you write it in treble clef but 1 octave higher. So this same line, this is F in the bass clef. That's if you think of it in treble clef, that's 3 ledger lines below, but you don't write 3 ledger lines below, you write it 1 octave higher. So let's see how this sounds. It should sound the same. Let's see. I'm going to play the first one. Okay, now let's hear the next one. It should sound the same. Let's see. Okay, so it sounds the same. It's the same thing, but every voice has a step for their own. Only difference is tenor you write in treble clef, and it's you write it 1 octave higher. There's another way that you can write. You can use alto and tenor clefs here also. You can use alto for alto, alto clef for alto, and then tenor clef for tenor also. I hope you all are familiar with these clefs. So when you have the tenor clef, you write the exact same notes. No difference. So I'm just going to copy these ones. Soprano, it's the same. Altos, it's the same features, but you write in alto clef. We know this is D above middle C in alto clef. Third line is middle C, so the next space is D. So same pitch. Tenors, if you use tenor clef, use the same pitch. So here we know we wanted F sharp below middle C. So you want to write the exact. We know this fourth line is middle C, C, B, A, G, F. So we write the exact same pitches as on the short score. Bass is again the same. So let's hear this. For some reason it's slower, but it's the same thing. Choirs, I'm talking about actual choirs, they usually use this method. So tenors usually use the tenor clef, written 1 octave high, but they sing 1 octave low. You can use this also, but this is choirs don't use this as frequently as this method. So you can use both methods for open score, and this is short score. For our ease, we use short score to notate 4-part harmony. So we remember now in triads we said that's 3-part harmony. So to convert a triad to 4-part harmony, we have to add a 4th note. But we know triad we have only 3 notes, so we have to double 1 note. uh, let's find this empty space. We had the C major triad. This is our triad. Now we are going to convert this into a 4-note chord in 4-part harmony. So we have to double one note. Our best option is to double the root of the triad. So what's the root of this triad? It's C. So to turn this triad into a 4-note chord, your best option is to double the root. So C, E, G, you add another C. Now this has 4 notes. We have to arrange this into 4 voices. So what we can do is, let's put C here. That's our lowest C. We had, for reference, let's write so these are the pitches. We have to assign them into different voices. We can put C here, and then maybe G to the tenor, and then let's give E to alto and C to the tenor. So when it's root position, you have to have your root in the bottom. That's a must. If it's root position, you have to have C at the bottom. Other notes you can have in any order. So here we had C, E, G, but now we have C, G, E, C. That doesn't matter. What only matters is you have the root at the bottom. What's up here, you can arrange it in any order. Now, writing to 4 voices, there are 2 ways that you can write chords. One is open voicing and the other one is closed voicing. This is an example for open voicing. Open voicing means you have to consider the top 3 voices, that's soprano, alto and tenor. If you can insert any note of the triad between these notes, that's an open voicing. So we know between tenor and alto, that's G and E, you can put a C in between. So that's open. That space is open. So if you check alto and soprano, we have E and G, E and C. You can put a G in the middle. So this is open voicing. If you write closed voicing, this is an example for closed voicing. It's the same triad, same chord. See, we have 2 C's, E and G. Here also we have 2 C's, E and G. But this is closed voicing. This is open voicing. In closed voicing, you don't have a space. You don't have any space to put in notes of the triad in the top 3 voices. So if you check soprano and alto, it's E and G. You can't put any note of the triad in between these 2. If you check alto and tenor, it's E and C, no space to put another note. So this is closed voicing. This is open voicing. But both are root position. Whatever that you write is correct. The reason we have 2 types of voicing like this that comes to play when you write music. Usually open voicing sounds milder and closed voicing sounds very focused. Let's hear the difference. I'm going to play this on my keyboard here. This is the open voicing. This is the closed voicing. So it's much more focused. Let's hear on the software also. So this is much more condensed. This is much more mild. So the way you voice your triad, how you assign the four notes to the each of the voices, that's up to you. But only thing that you must do is you have to have the correct note as the base. If it's root position, you have to have C at the base. If this was first inversion, then you have to have E at the bottom. That's the only thing. You can arrange the other voices in any order. I will just demonstrate the difference between using open voicing and closed voicing. I'm going to play an excerpt from Gustav Mahler's 10th Symphony. I'm going to play a passage. This is written for flute and violas and cellos. It's a very mild passage, and he has used open voicing. But I will show you what happens if you use closed voicing in this context. That depends on what tone color you want to achieve. I am now using closed voicing. That's more focused sound. So I used all the chords in closed voicing. So that sounds very dense and focused. Now I'm going to use open voicing, same way that he wrote the piece. Same passage. So if you listen closely to my lower voices, the first one sounded like this. That's closed voicing, and open voicing is. So it's much more mild. So again, only thing that's a must is you have to have the correct note at the bottom. If it's root position, you have to have the root at the bottom. If it's first inversion, you have to have the third at the bottom. If it's second inversion, you have to have the fifth at the bottom. So here I have few examples for the inversions. So here root position, we have to have two C's, E and G. We double the root, C, C, E, G. So we have two C's, E and G. Then if we are to write the same chord in first inversion, then we have to have the third at the bottom. So E, then we have two C's and a G remaining. So we put that wherever we want, but according to those voice ranges. So I put the C here, G and C. So we have the four notes complete. Then we are going to write the same chord in second inversion. We put G at the bottom. That's the fifth of the triad. G at the bottom, and then we have two C's and an E remaining. I put the C here, other C here, and E to the alto. So same method like triads. You write Roman numerals, you either write A or you don't write for root position. That's up to you. First inversion you write B, second inversion you write C. If it's a minor chord, you write simple Roman, diminished, simple with the circle on top, augmented, capital with the plus sign on top. Those are the inversions for the chords. Now when writing in 4-part harmony, there are usually 3 ways that voices can move. One is oblique motion, second one is contrary motion, third one is parallel motion. Let's see what oblique motion is. We are talking about 2 voices here. One voice stays the same and the other one moves in the other direction or whatever direction. One of the voices are stationary. එක voice එකක් කොහෙටවත් යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ස්ථාවරයි. තව voice එකක් වෙනින් දිශාවකට යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකට අපි කියනවා oblique motion කියලා. Contrary motion, the 2 voices are moving in different directions. This is moving down, this is moving up. It can be the other way around. This can be moving down and this can be moving up. Contrary motion. Parallel motion is when you have 2 voices moving in the same direction. This voice is also moving up, this voice is also moving up. So that's parallel motion. In harmony, there's a rule that says you have to avoid parallel fifths and parallel octaves. What does this mean? Parallel fifths means if you have a fifth between any of these 2 voices. Let's see, this chord we have G, D, B, G. So between bass and tenor, G and D, G, A, B, C, D, we have a fifth here. Then if we check the other ones, G to B, that's not a fifth. G to G, that's an octave. Yeah. So G to G is an octave. So when this goes to this chord, we have C, G, E, and C. This has to be come down here. We have the bass moving from G to C, tenor moving from D to G. Now what do we have? Again a fifth. So this is, we have got fifths moving in parallel direction. So that's not allowed in 4-part harmony traditional rules. So again, if we look at the rest of the chord, we had G to G octave and C to C again octave. So we have octaves moving in the same direction. So that's not allowed. When you double notes for a triad, in root position, always double the root. There's an exception. You can double the third when 5 goes to 6. That means like in an interrupted cadence. So if you have an interrupted cadence, root position 5 going to root position 6, you can double the third of the 6 chord in interrupted cadences. And when in first inversion, you can double any note. That's you can double any note, but always have the preference to the root. But don't double the leading tone. If you are in C major, leading tone is B. If you are tried as a B, and it's in first inversion, don't double the B. In second inversion, you can double the fifth or the root that depends on the voice leading uh, situation. I don't think you all have voice leading for O levels. So next we have cadences. Cadence is a point of rest in music. So this comes as a this is also talked about in form, that's structure of music. A certain piece, when a phrase comes to an end and a new phrase starts, so that's, you can call it like a place of rest somewhere. When tension in harmony gets released, so those places we call them cadences. So for you all have 4 types of cadences: it's perfect, imperfect, plagal, and interrupted cadence. I think you all have learned this before. Perfect cadence is 5 going into 1. So our key is C major, no sharps or flats. So 5 of C major is C, D, E, F, G. G, we have the 5 chord going into 1. Let's hear it. That's a perfect cadence. So in another thing that you have to remember is, if you are in a minor key, remember to raise the leading tone. For example, let's say we are in A minor. So if you are asked to write perfect cadence in A minor, you have to write 5 to 1. So what's 5 in A minor? A, B, C, D, E. It's E. So we know in minor scales, in harmonic minor, we have the 7th raised. So 7th is G. So in a case like this, you have to raise the leading tone, and then going into 1, you can stay the same. G sharp goes to A, B goes to C. So E major to A minor. So here this one is minor. So imperfect cadence, that's 1 going to 5. So when writing cadences, try to avoid these things, parallel fifths and parallel octaves, from occurring. There are certain things that I can't talk about here, that may be too advanced for you. Things related to voice leading. So I'm not going to talk about those things here, but your safest thing to do is avoid parallel fifths and parallel octaves, and then all you have to remember is what each cadence, what's the progression. Perfect cadence is 5 to 1, imperfect is 1 to 5, plagal is 4 to 1, interrupted is 5 to 6, and then uh, put the voicing accordingly. So one thing that I can tell you is, always when you move, bass can do leaps. Bass voice, you're allowed to do leaps. The other three voices, try to move as less as possible. If you can retain a common tone, you know, here we are in key of C major, imperfect is 1 going to 5, so what's our 1 chord? C, E, G, C. And then our 5 chord is G, 5 in C major, C, D, E, F, G. It's G, B, D, G. So we know we have a common tone here. We have G in both chords. So when you have the chance to retain a common tone, do it. And then the other voices, move as less as possible. So I only moved by step. The other voices, bass can do leaps. Next we have the plagal cadence. That's 4 going to 1. So we are in the key of C major. Fourth chord in C major is C, D, E, F. F going to C. So chord on F, F, A, C, F. We have all 4 notes, F, C, A, F. Going into 1, that's the C chord, C, E, G, C. Again, I have retained the common tone, and the other voices are moving as less as possible. I move by step. Bass is allowed to do leaps. Otherwise, you can't do linear motion on bass and get the root position. So here, interrupted cadence. Interrupted cadence is 5 going to 6. I mentioned an exception for root position doubling for 6. I said you can double the third. Why is that? Interrupted cadence is also known as the deceptive cadence. Why? When we hear the 5 in a piece, we always expect it to go to 1. But here, without going into 1, we are going into 5. Let's see what the perfect cadence does. So, we're in the key of C major. So, when we have 5, your ear wants it to go to 1. But that's perfect. So, in interrupted, which is the deceptive cadence, in C major, you come to 5, and then without going to 1, you go to 6. So, but your ear still wanted it to go to 1. The reason this can go to 6 is, if you think about the 1 chord, what are the notes in 1 chord? C, E, G, C. And what are the notes in 6 chord? A, C, E, A. So we have 2 notes in common with the 1 chord, C and E. So we can get away with using 6, but double the C, which is on the 1 chord. So it's less, how to put it, I can't say dissonant. So it's more in the expected territory, because your ear wants 5 to go to 1, but we want to go to 6. We have 2 notes in common with the 1 chord in the 6 chord. That's 6 chord as A, C, E, A. 1 chord as C, C, E, G, C. we have C and E common with both chords. So you can double the third in root position for 6th chord when it's coming after 5. Somebody is asking, is there a numbering order to the cadence? Yes, 5 always goes to 1. Perfect cadence is 5 going to 1. So this is the order. 5 goes to 1, not 1 goes to 5. Imperfect is 1 goes to 5. 4 goes to 1. Plagal cadence. Interrupted cadence is 5 going to 6, not the other way around. This order of chord progression that doesn't change. So I don't think I played the plagal cadence. It's also known as the Harmonic cadence because I think in church music you all may have heard. This is very common. So that's plagal cadence. That's interrupted cadence. So your ear wants it to go to 1, but it goes to 6. We have a question here. Why can the bass move a lot and the other voices have to move closely? In reality, all the singers are equally capable. They can sing leaps, but when we write for 4-part harmony, there are when let's say we have to write all the chords in root position, we have to have leaps in the bass. Otherwise, if I am to go from 1 to 5, that's C to G in C major. I can't move stepwise and go to a G. I don't have a G nearby. So I have to do a leap. So when singing, it's always better not to do leaps. You can do leaps in thirds. If you do, sorry, there's another question coming in. If you do not double the third, will it be wrong? I am assuming you're asking about this particular thing that I said. It won't be wrong, but this is better voicing. Root position, of course, you can double the root. That's the normal thing to do. But this is an exception because that's what our ear would expect. That's what the human ear would expect. So coming back to the voice leading leaps and things. So when singing, it's always easier to sing notes that are close by. If you're a singer, you would know it's easy to sing a scale rather than to sing leaps. So when writing in 4-part harmony, try to do the voice leading in stepwise, or you can do thirds, that's allowed. But don't do odd intervals and giant leaps. So and the other thing is, don't put gaps of more than an octave between the top 3 voices. Between tenor and bass, you can have larger interval, but between the top 3 voices, keep within an octave. So between tenor and alto, don't go beyond an octave. Between alto and soprano, don't go beyond an octave. Always, your safest thing to do is to move as less as possible, because bass has to do the correct roots. It has to move. It can move in leaps. Uh, Questions. How can we identify the difference between plagal and interrupted when played? It's very easy. Plagal comes to 1. So if you are in C major, I'll use a louder tone. We are in C major. So plagal is 4 chord going into 1. So we are coming back home. This is plagal. See, we are in C major. So we came back to 1. Interrupted. We are in C major. This is C major. So 5. 5 is G. So naturally our ear would expect it to go to 1. But instead of going to 1, it goes to 6. So we are not the tonic chord. So this is 5. I'll use the same voicing. So that's a minor triad. Minor chord rather. So 6 in major, 6th triad in major, we found out earlier that's minor. A, C, E is minor. So plagal is 4 coming to 1. That's very easy to identify. Interrupted, 5 goes to 6. So I hope that's clear. So if you all have, if you have a keyboard at home, play these things. Best thing in music, best thing to do, best way to remember is to do it yourself. Hear each of these things, and as you can see, I just wrote everything in C major because that's easier for everyone to understand. If you want to practice this, do this for other keys as well. G major, E flat major, any key, and do this for minor keys also. Remember to raise the leading tone. So that's how you can practice, and I highly recommend that you do this for other keys as well. You may have seen I have used the name of the scale with the colon. In Roman numeral analysis, we write it like this. I don't know whether that's needed for your exam, might not be. If it's a minor key, if it's A minor, we write simple A. It's A major, we write capital A. This is C major, so we write simple capital C. So it's at a glance it's clear. C major, 1 chord in C is C, 5 chord in C is G. That's why I have written the letter names. So here, yeah, same thing that I said before. In a minor key, raise the leading tone. If you are in A minor has G sharp, so raise it. Then another thing I think that you all have for your harmony is the dominant 7th chord. Forget the 7th. What's dominant? Dominant is tonic, supertonic, median, subdominant, dominant. That's the 5 chord. Dominant is the 5 chord. So in C major, the 5 chord is G. Seventh is you add a 7th to that. So here we have dominant chord. We built it in thirds. We had 3, 5. Then you have to add the 7th. F is the 7th. G, A, B, C, D, E, F. F is the 7th note from the root. So when you add the 7th to the dominant chord, that becomes dominant 7th. This dominant 7th that has a special sonority, and we call this, there are types of 7th chords. This is a major minor 7th. we have a major chord and then a minor seventh on top. G to F is a minor seventh. This interval is a minor seventh. So dominant seventh chord, you have a major chord with a minor seventh on top. Okay. So if we analyze the interval separately, we have a major third, perfect fifth, and a minor seventh. That's the dominant seventh tone quality. So let's try another key. If we are in A flat major, what's the dominant seventh in A flat major? You first find the dominant. What's the dominant in A flat major? That's the fifth chord. A flat, B flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat. So E flat is our 5 chord. E flat, G, B flat. You add the seventh on top, then that becomes dominant seventh. So this is A flat major. We are in the key of A flat. E flat is our dominant chord. You add the seventh, then that becomes dominant seventh. Let's try for a minor key. We are in F sharp minor. Your dominant is, what's the fifth in F sharp minor? F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp. So 5 chord. Remember, we have to raise the leading tone. E is sharp in F sharp minor. This is the 5 chord, and you add a 7th tone. That's dominant seventh in F sharp minor. So, but as you can see and hear, dominant seventh chord, it's when you use dominant seventh in place of the dominant, this is much more dramatic. And if you check the dominant chord, we talked about this earlier. If you are in the key of C major, we are in C major, and if we come to the dominant, and your ear wants this chord to go to 1. And in harmony, we talk about certain notes as tendency tones. For an example, here the B is a tendency tone. That wants, your ear wants this note to go to 1. So likewise, here we have 2 tendency tones. B wants to go to C, and then there's another one, F. So this is more active, and it's more unstable. This has more tension. So using dominant seventh chord has more tension than the dominant chord. So now we talked about how to spell the dominant seventh chord, and I think you all have to know how to resolve dominant seventh chords also. So resolving dominant sevenths, there are a couple of things that you have to remember. Subdominant, that subdominant of the key resolves down by step. What does this mean? Subdominant of the key, that's if we are in C major, what's the subdominant of C major? C, D, E, F. F has to resolve down by step. Now our dominant seventh chord has an F. See, we are in C major, our dominant chord is G, B, D, and to make it a dominant seventh, we add the seventh, so we have F. Now this subdominant has to resolve down by step, so it has to go to E. And our leading tone in C major is B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. B is the seventh. That resolves up by step. There is an exception when the leading tone is in an inner voice. That means alto or tenor. it can move differently, because otherwise you end up having parallel fifths and parallel octaves. To avoid that, when the leading tone is an inner voice, when the leading tone is used in an inner voice, that can move differently, rather than resolving up by step, but always try to do this one. Try to resolve the leading tone up by step. If only if that's in an inner voice, if you have no other option to go without having parallel fifths, you can resolve down. uh, let's see a couple of examples. So here we are in the key of C major, so I've used different voicing. So here for the dominant seventh in C major, dominant is C D E F G, 5 chord with the 7 on top, G B D G, G B D F. So we have there are occasions that you may have to omit a note in the dominant seventh chord, and this is one such exception. When you have to omit a note, omit the fifth. That means the D, G, B, D. So you can omit the D. Otherwise, you will end up having parallel fifths. So what I have done here is, on the dominant seventh chord, I have removed the fifth from it. So that doesn't make too much of a difference. So this doesn't have the dominant note, the fifth note, that's D. I haven't used D. So this resolves to 1. So G goes to 1, that has to go. Then I'm going to retain the common tone here, because 5 chord and 1 chord, they both have the G in common. And then we said leading tone resolves up by step. So B resolves up by step, B goes to C, and then subdominant, that's F, has to resolve down by step. F has to come to E, whatever happens. So that's a hard and fast rule. So this is changeable, but because we can move up, we do that. So here we had an incomplete dominant seventh chord and a complete 1 chord. So here we have a complete dominant seventh chord. See, we have all 4 notes, G, B, D, F. So we know our subdominant, that's the 4th of the scale degree, or 7th of your dominant 7th, has to resolve down by step, so that has to come to E, so that's a must. And to go to 1, bass has to go to C, and D is it's closest to go to C. And B, here you can, I have made an exception, I have resolved the B down. Why? If I do this, no. Yeah, you can have complete and complete. Yeah, this is not the one that I want to talk about. Yeah. This is complete dominant 7th chord and complete 1 chord. This is the one I want to talk about. So now here we have G, D, F, B. We have complete dominant 7th chord, and then we have an incomplete 1 chord. Here F has to go to E, that's subdominant, has to resolve down by step, that has to happen, and leading tone resolves up by step. Here we have no choice, because that is in soprano, that's an outer voice, so that has to go to C. So, and then I have two notes remaining. I have to have a G and a C. So if I move this down here and then move this here, that's two voices moving down into a fifth. So that's parallel fifth. If I do it, so here this is a fifth, this is a fifth. So that's a parallel fifth. So to avoid this, I will triple the root. So I have three C's here. So again, I omitted 5 in the one chord. So likewise, you can have incomplete dominant seventh and complete one chord. You can have complete and complete dominant seventh and complete one chord, but this is again closed voicing. This is closed voicing. So here I can go to C and omit the G, but if I want to have a complete chord, because this B is in an inner voice, I can move differently, and I will have the option of going into a complete one chord. So I will take the option of moving to G. Or if we go by the rule, you can resolve this up by step and double the C, not a problem. But if I want to have a complete chord, I have the option of moving down, because this leading tone is not in an outer voice, it's an inner voice. So I will go to the complete chord. In this case, F has to go to E, subdominant has to go to E, B has to go to C, because uh, this B is in an outer voice. So I don't have any choice with those two notes. I have to do that. So here, if I go for the complete chord, have C and G, I will end up with parallel fifths. So I will not do that. Instead, I will triple the root. So that's about it on the fundamental components that you have for harmony, I think for your level. So dominant seventh can replace 5. Next, we'll go to analysis. I got this question from the 2014 paper, I think. So they have given the soprano line, they have given the melody line, they have given the chord indications, and you are asked to complete this, harmonize this passage, this melody line. So they have given me the chord indications. So let's put the bass in first. So we are in the key of D major. So 1 in D major is 1. Root position 1 is D. Then I have 1B. This is first inversion, 1 chord. What's first inversion of 1B in D major? D major, 1 chord is D, F sharp, A, D. And then first inversion is F sharp is at the bottom. So put the F sharp here. I'm just going to write the bass line first. So here 4. What's 4 chord in D major? D, E, F sharp, G. So G is my bass. It's in root position. Then again I have 1B. 1B is D, F sharp, A, F sharp at the bottom. And then I have 5. I'm going to use a long note here. 5, what's 5 in D major? D, E, F sharp, G, A. So again 1 is D. Now I'm going to fill in the rest of the notes. So one chord in D major, D F sharp A. I'm going to double the root D F sharp A D. Two D's F sharp and A. I already have the F sharp. We have a question 2014. How do we know if it's D major or B minor? Look at the melody line. We have F sharp D, B, C sharp, D. All of these notes we find this in the D major scale. If it was B minor, do we see any A sharps here? No. And this starts on F sharp and ends on D. So very likely for this to be B major. And if you see an A sharp that's raised leading tone, then that's B minor. And another thing that you can find this out is they gave you the chord indications, and this one was capital Roman 1. So if this was B minor, that would have been simple Roman 1. So then you would have had to put B. So again, coming back here, I'm going to fill in the rest of the notes. So here I need two D's, so I'm going to put one more D up here. Then I need an A. I will put the A here. So 1B. This is first inversion D major. Again D F sharp A. I'm going to double the root of the one chord. So again two D's F sharp and A. I have the option of retaining this D, so I'm going to take it. And then naturally I will have the option of retaining this A. I will do it. Then we move on to 4 chord. 4 is D, E, F sharp, G, G, B, D, G. I'm going to double the root. Here also I have the option of I can retain the D, and then here I will have a G. So now you can see we have note C here. C doesn't belong to 4 chord. So in harmony we have things called non-chord tones. So notes that don't belong to the chord. So we have passing tones, suspensions. So this is a passing tone. So you can disregard that and fill the chord here. So again 1B. I'm going to retain the common tone. This would be very boring for the tenor, but for the sake of voice leading purposes, I'm going to stick to this. Again, I will double the A. I will have the A. So I have two D's, A and F sharp. 5 chord, D, E, F sharp, G, A. I need two A's, E and C sharp. I have one A and C sharp here. Now, from tenor, it's easier to go to E. And here I will have the other A. I have a long note for this, and then one chord. I'm going to have this E can move to F sharp, so I need two D's, F sharp and A. This E can move to F sharp. I have a long note. And I'm going to retain this A. So if we play it, so that's how you harmonize something. When you're given the chord indications, you will always be given the chord indications because you all don't have harmonic progressions at your level. So another way that you can be asked question is to analyze a given passage. So I've taken this excerpt from Bach, one of the chorals by Bach. So here, first of all, we are being asked to analyze this section, this passage. So first of all, I'm going to determine which key is it. So this starts on a D, yeah, D F sharp, D A, it's a D, ends on a D, and I don't see any A sharps here. So I'm going to decide that this is D major. So let's analyze one by one. So here we have D F sharp D A. So that's 1 in D major. Or maybe you want to listen to this. So this is 1. 1 in D major is D F sharp A D. Then what do we have? B F sharp D D. So what's B? So B in the bass clef, B in the bass. So D E F sharp G A B. What's the that's 6. 6 chord is B D F. B D F sharp. So we have B, we have 2 Ds and F sharp. So this is 6 chord. B D F sharp is a minor chord. So 6 chord is in a major key is minor. I'm going to write in 5. So the thing that I told you earlier. Now this is root position 6 chord. We said in root position we double the root. Now do we see 2 B's? No. He has doubled the D. That's the third. That is to avoid parallel fifths. If I went to B, I could have done this, but then this would have created this D to D going to B to B. That would have been parallel octaves. So he has made a decision to retain the D. Next, we move here. We have F sharp at the bottom. F sharp A D A. That sounds like D major. Yeah, we have D F sharp A in one chord, but F sharp is at the bottom, so it's first inversion one chord. So we first inversion we put B. Then what do we have here? We have G, G, D, B, and F sharp. This F sharp is a passing tone. This particular example is quite a complex example. I'm going to I chose this because this is a common example because it has it's a bit difficult, but for your exam you will get a much easier thing. I'm going to do this example with difficulty because then you all know something difficult comes up, how to handle it. So here we have GGDB. We have a chord like that. That's the 4 chord in D major, GBDG. We have F sharp here. That's a non-chord tone. It's a passing tone. We can disregard that. So I'm going to name this 4. So passing tones are approached by step and goes away by step. So this is comes by step and resolves by step. That's a passing tone. I'm not going to talk too much about non-chord tones because that's not on your subject area. And next, what do we have here? A, E, D, A. What chord is that? We do not have a chord like that. But we have a let's keep that aside and check here. We have A, E, C sharp. So A, E, C sharp in D major, that's 5 chord. So let's put 5 here. So in non-chord tones, there's something called suspensions. So suspension is approached by common tone. So we have a common tone here and then resolved by step. So I'm going to assume this is a suspension. So let's name this also. Okay. I name this as a passing tone, this F sharp, and then I'm going to assume this is a suspension, which is a non-chord tone. This does not belong to the chord. So this is A, E, A. We don't have a C, but because this is suspension, I'm going to take this as a 5 chord. This is again 5. 5 with a suspension. So here we have a G. So A, C, E, G. That's a dominant seventh. So at this particular place, you can put dominant seventh. Next we come here, we have D, F sharp. So we have a triple root and F sharp. So those are notes of the tonic chord. So I'm going to go with 1. We have the same thing here. Again 1. So here A, E, A. This is a D. This is again a passing tone. No, this is a neighboring tone. Again non-chord tone. So here we have D, F sharp, D, A, again 1. D, F sharp, D, A. This C doesn't belong to the chord, so that's a approach by step, resolved by step. That's a passing tone. Then we have E, G, B, G. What's that chord? E is D, E. That's the second degree of D major. E, G, B. Yeah, all 3 notes are there. So E, G, B is a minor chord. I'm going to go with 2 minor. Because it's a minor chord, I'm using simple Roman numerals. This here because this C was a passing tone. Then again here this C doesn't belong here. That's approach by step, resolve by step. That's a passing tone. Then we have F sharp, A, D, F sharp. Those are notes of the D. That's the one chord. But in first inversion, I'm going to go with one B. Here, let's see. G, D, B, E. So we have because these there are so many notes. Let's leave that aside, and then let's go to the final one. That's D, F, D is one. Then let's look at here. A, C. We have double A and G. This is at this particular place we have a dominant seventh. When this G occurs, and then here A, C, A. This D is a anticipation. So that's again a non-chord tone. So we have, if we look at this particular beat, so we have G and E, B and E. So those are the notes of the two minor chord E, G, B. I'm going to put can put 2C here, and then when it comes here, it's two position. This D is again a non-chord tone. Then it's approached by common step, resolved by common tone, and resolved by step. That's a suspension. That D is in suspension. So we have analyzed the whole passage. You will not get something this complex. It will be, you won't have too many non-chord tones. Here we had a couple of non-chord tones, but you won't have something this complex. But I analyze this for you all to see. So in case you get something difficult, you won't have a problem. So let's play this once again. Yeah. So these are the types of questions that you may get asked at your exams. This is only a very limited portion of the subject of harmony, and we talked about all these rules. However, in the history, we know, because studying major composers from the Baroque or even before contemporary era, even though we talked about all these rules in harmony, there's somebody who has found a way to get around these rules. So there are, for your exam, there are rules. Don't change them, stick to them. But speaking generally, they're more sort of a guideline for composers. So always we can see major composers, Beethoven, Mahler, any composer, they have got around all these rules and they have found a way to make them pleasing to the ear. The reason they have imposed these rules in traditional harmony is mostly based on the reason that they give is it's not pleasing to the human ear. But there are several composers in the music history who have found a way to make them pleasing to the ear. So that's how we have, and that has to happen because otherwise music can't evolve. You just end up writing the same thing all over. What we heard 600 years ago, we still have to write the same thing if composers didn't break rules. But that's only for composers, not for you. So I think we have come to the end of our session today. That's mostly I want to most part that I want to talk about. අද අපි අපේ සෙෂන් එකේ අවසානයේට ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නේ. මේ කොටස් ටික තමයි මට කතා කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි දැන් මේ හාමනි වල ගොඩක් නීති රීති කතා කරාට මේ ප්‍රායෝගිකව යථාර්ථය ගත්තම අපේ මියුසික් වල ඉතිහාසය බැලුවොත් එහෙම ඕන තරම් කම්පෝසර්ලා මේ නීති කඩලා තියෙනවා. මොකද මේ නීති වල ඒ නීති දාලා තියෙන්නේ සාම්ප්‍රදායිකව ඒවා මිනිස් කනට අහන්න එච්චර අමාරුයි කියලා තමයි. නමුත් ප්‍රසිද්ධ කම්පෝසර්ස්ලා බේටෝවන්, මාලර් ඕන තරම් කම්පෝසර්ස්ලා මේ නීති රීති කඩලා තියෙනවා. ඒවා මිනිස් කනට හොඳ විදිහට. ඒක නිසා හෙටත් එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන්, අනාගතයටත් එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ නීති කඩන්න එපා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ විභාගෙට නීති කඩන්න නැතුව ඒ තියෙන විදිහට ලියන්න. එතකොට අද අපේ හාමනි සම්බන්ධ සෙෂන් එක මෙතනින් නිමාවටපත් වෙනවා. ඕගොල්ලන්ට මොන හරි තව ප්‍රශ්න ගැටලු තියෙනවා නම් මේ අපේ ගුස්ටාව් මාලර් සොසයිටි එකේ Facebook page එකක් තියෙනවා, Instagram page එකක් තියෙනවා, සහ මේ YouTube channel එක තියෙනවා. සහ email එක මම හිතන්නේ මේ ඉන්ටර්නෙට් එකේ හොයාගන්නත් පුළුවන්. මෙතන YouTube channel එකෙන් හොයාගන්නත් පුළුවන් අපේ email address එක colombomalasociety@gmail.com. මේකෙන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට එම ප්‍රශ්න යොමු කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට පුළුවන් වෙලාවට අපි ඒවට උත්තර සපයන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම අපේ ගුස්තාව් මාලර් ඔර්කෙස්ට්‍රා එකත් එක්ක ඔයගොල්ලෝ වැඩි විස්තර දැනගන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද අපේ ඔර්කෙස්ට්‍රා එක තමයි ලංකාවේ National Youth Orchestra කරනකොට educational program එකක් කියන එකම ඔර්කෙස්ට්‍රා එක ලංකාවේ තියෙන. ඒක නිසා මේ ඉගෙන ගන්න අය හැටියට මම හිතන්නේ අපේ ඔර්කෙස්ට්‍රා එකත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධ වෙලා ඉඳීමින් ඕගොල්ලන්ට ගොඩක් විස්තර ප්‍රයෝජන ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක නිසා අපේ Facebook පිටුව හා සම්බන්ධ වීමෙන් ඒක follow කරන්න පුළුවන්. Instagram එක සහ මේ YouTube channel එක subscribe කරලා ඒකත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි හිතනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ session එකෙන් මොන හරි දෙයක් ලබා ගන්න ඇති කියලා. ගැටලු තියෙනවා නම් මේ අපිව සම්බන්ධ කරගන්න පුළුවන් ආකාරයකට යොමු කරන්න. Instagram account එක මොකක්ද කියලා අහලා තියෙනවා @colombomalasociety. So we have reached the end of our session. If you all have any questions, you can reach us through our Facebook page. We have an Instagram page and email. Our email address is Colombo Mahler Society at gmail.com. Instagram is at Colombo Mahler Society. Facebook page is Gustav Mahler Society of Colombo. So you can write to any of these things and ask us if you have any questions. And I hope you will stay with the Gustav Mahler Society in the future, because that's the only orchestra in Sri Lanka which is an active educational program going throughout the season. And also, I failed to mention, we have done several videos and workshops on instruments of the orchestra. So that's you can find them on this channel. අපේ channel එකෙන් අපේ Gustav Mahler orchestra එකේ principal players ලා කරලා තියෙනවා orchestra instruments ගැන විස්තර සහිතව workshops 4ක්. ඒ 4 අපේ YouTube channel එකෙන් බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ videos ටික තියෙනවා. එතකොට මම හිතන්නේ මේ පාඩම් ටිකත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට විභාගෙට තියෙනවා. ඒ ටිකත් බලන්න පුළුවන්. So you can get in touch with any of these media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and the email. You can ask questions and you can follow them for future updates. I think as students, this will be very beneficial for you in future. So that brings us to the end of our session. I hope this was useful to you, and hope to see you soon in future. මම හිතනවා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේ අපේ session එකෙන් ප්‍රයෝජනයක් ලැබෙන්න ඇති කියලා. ඊට අපි හම්බ වෙමු. මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා රාජකීය විද්‍යාලයේ බටහිර සංගීත සංගමයට මේක workshop එක කිරීමට අපිට ආරාධනා කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන්. ඒ වගේම මගේ orchestra එකේ associate conductor එයත් මෙතන මට background එකකින් ඉඳලා ගොඩක් සහාය වුණා ඔයගොල්ලෝගේ ප්‍රශ්න ඉදිරිපත් කරගෙන. ඒක නිසා මේ සියලු දෙනාටම ස්තුතියි. ඔබ හැමෝම අපිත් එක්ක එකතු වුණාට ස්තුතියි. සුබ සන්ධ්‍යාවක් ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. ආයුබෝවන්.